This was supposed to stay buried. While the world was distracted by elections, scandals, and shouting matches, a silent decision was made behind closed doors. And now, it's exploding into the open. A $753 million aerospace move has just been unleashed, one that reshapes power, jobs, and global influence overnight. And here's the twist no one is talking about yet. This is exactly the kind of strategic strike Donald Trump never anticipated. What you're about to hear isn't hype, it's a calculated power shift. And once you see how it fits together, you'll understand why governments and industries are suddenly scrambling. According to officials familiar with the decision, Carney has approved a sweeping $753 million aerospace initiative designed to supercharge domestic innovation, lock in high-value jobs, and secure technological independence at a moment when the global aviation and space sectors are becoming increasingly politicized. The timing is what makes this moment explosive. While political attention elsewhere has been locked on election cycles, tariffs, and headline-grabbing culture wars, this decision was being engineered behind the scenes with surgical precision. At the heart of this move is a clear recognition of where the next decade of power will actually be decided. Aerospace today is no longer just about planes in the sky. It's about satellite infrastructure, advanced materials, propulsion systems, AI-assisted navigation, and dual-use technologies that blur the line between civilian and strategic capability. Whoever controls these ecosystems doesn't just gain economic leverage, they gain geopolitical breathing room. That is exactly what this $753 million push is designed to secure. Sources indicate the funding will be spread across multiple pillars. One major focus is next-generation aircraft systems, including lighter composite materials, fuel-efficient propulsion, and advanced avionics. Another key component targets space-related manufacturing, particularly satellites and launch support technologies that reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. There's also a heavy emphasis on workforce development, funneling money into specialized training, university partnerships, and regional innovation hubs to ensure talent doesn't leak abroad. What makes this even more striking is how quietly it came together. While other governments have telegraphed their industrial strategies through loud announcements and political theater, this plan appears to have been developed with minimal noise, only emerging once the funding structure, industry commitments, and regulatory pathways were already aligned. By the time the public learned about it, the machinery was already in motion, and this is where the Trump angle becomes impossible to ignore. During Trump's time in power, aerospace was often framed through a narrow lens of defense contracts, tariffs, and headline deals with major manufacturers. While those moves generated attention, critics argued they failed to build a coherent, long-term innovation strategy that protected supply chains and nurtured future-facing technologies. This new $753 million initiative directly targets those gaps, focusing not just on existing giants, but on the ecosystem beneath them. Industry analysts are already calling this a strategic blind spot that Trump-era policy never fully addressed. While attention was focused on trade disputes and renegotiated agreements, other players were quietly investing in the infrastructure that will define aerospace competitiveness in the 2030s and beyond. In that sense, this isn't just a funding announcement. It's a statement about priorities, about patience, and about understanding where real leverage is built. Executives within the aerospace sector have reacted swiftly. Several companies have confirmed they are already preparing expansion plans tied to the new funding. Some are accelerating R&D projects that had been sitting on the shelf due to uncertainty. Others are looking at reshoring components that were previously outsourced, citing the new program's incentives and long-term stability. This kind of response is exactly what policymakers hoped for, creating a feedback loop where public investment unlocks far larger private commitments. The political implications are just as significant. At a time when global alliances are under strain and industrial nationalism is rising, this move positions Carney as someone playing a deeper game. Rather than reacting to the news cycle, this strategy anticipates future choke points in global supply chains and moves to secure them now, while the cost is still manageable and the competition distracted. There's also a messaging dimension that shouldn't be underestimated. Without a single inflammatory speech or viral soundbite, this decision sends a clear signal to allies and rivals alike. It says this country intends to be indispensable in aerospace, not just a customer or junior partner. It says advanced manufacturing jobs are not being written off, but actively cultivated. And it says long-term planning still exists in an era often dominated by short-term political incentives. Trump's allies have been quick to push back, arguing that his administration's policies laid the groundwork for industrial revival and that this move simply builds on a global trend he helped accelerate. But critics counter that there's a difference between rhetoric and structure. Tariffs and deal-making create pressure, but sustained competitiveness comes from ecosystems, skills, and innovation pipelines. That's where this $753 million investment appears laser-focused. Another layer to this story is the international response. Aerospace is one of the most globally intertwined industries on Earth. Components cross borders multiple times before a single aircraft or satellite is complete. Any major investment by one player forces others to reassess their own strategies. Already, whispers are emerging that rival governments are reviewing their aerospace funding frameworks, worried about falling behind if they don't respond. This also intersects with the broader conversation about resilience. The pandemic exposed how fragile many supply chains truly were, especially in high-tech manufacturing. Aerospace was hit hard, with delays, shortages, and canceled projects rippling across the globe. This new initiative explicitly targets those vulnerabilities, aiming to localize critical capabilities without fully retreating into protectionism. It's a balancing act, and one that many governments have struggled to pull off. From a jobs perspective, the numbers are compelling. Preliminary estimates suggest tens of thousands of direct and indirect jobs could be supported over the life of the program. These are not low-skill positions, but high-value roles in engineering, software, advanced manufacturing, and systems integration. For regions that have struggled with deindustrialization, this could be transformative, anchoring communities around future-proof industries rather than declining ones. The timing also raises eyebrows politically. With global elections looming and economic uncertainty still high, committing $753 million to a long-term industrial strategy is a bold move. It opens Carney up to criticism from those who argue the money should be spent elsewhere. But supporters counter that this is precisely the kind of investment that prevents future crises by ensuring economic resilience and technological sovereignty. What's particularly notable is how little drama accompanied the rollout. No triumphant rallies, no inflammatory tweets, no theatrical confrontations. Just a detailed plan, significant funding, and immediate execution. In a media environment addicted to spectacle, that restraint may actually be the most radical part of the story. As the dust settles, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This isn't a one-off announcement. It's part of a broader recalibration of how power is built in the modern world. Not through slogans, but through systems. Not through short-term wins, but through long-term positioning. And in that context, the claim that Trump never saw this coming isn't just a jab. It's a reflection of how different political philosophies approach the future. Whether this aerospace revolution delivers everything it promises will take years to judge. Large-scale industrial strategies always carry risk. Projects can run over budget, technologies can fail, and political winds can shift. But the very act of committing to such a vision sends a signal that resonates far beyond the balance sheet. For now, the message is unmistakable. While others were distracted, Carney moved. While headlines focused elsewhere, a $753 million bet was placed on the industries that will shape the next generation of economic and strategic power. And as global players scramble to respond, one uncomfortable question hangs in the air. If this is the kind of move being made quietly today, what else is already in motion that we haven't seen yet?